our social justice recipient's wheels turning in his brain because he knows that this is a real issue across the Commonwealth and across this country. So just a few last things from me. Another champion that continues to work on food insecurity and food justice issues is my friend, our friend here in Holyoke, Representative Pat Duffy. Thank you, Pat Duffy, for continuing the work that you do. She was my legislative aide when we had breakfast after the bell passed, so every community with 60% or more free reduced lunch serves breakfast after the bell for those students in the classroom. So again, thank you for continuing to do that great work. Also, I want to recognize two of our city councilors here in Holyoke that are really, again, this last election in Holyoke and last year, if any of you were following, it really was a sea change. It's been building, it's been changing. They have people from the community, representing the community, really makes a big difference. Obviously, as all of you know, I know a lot of you in this room have been elected, have worked on campaigns. So again, I want to recognize Councilor Givner from Ward 4 and at-large Councilor Jose Manalo Velez. Where are you? All right, thank you to our city councilors for being here. And so many friends in this room, I've got to mention two last things here. This year, I know some people got a little bit confused when you got our letter, right? Because it was like, we've been with the Community Foundation for 11 years. We're still with the Community Foundation. The fund is still with the Community Foundation. But as a board, we need to be able to do things like this. We need to be able to bring people together. We need to be actionable ourselves. And so when our good friend John Weissman reminded us once again, it took a couple times, of the Warren J. Plout Foundation. And I want to apologize on the program. His last name is spelled wrong. I apologize for that on the bottom of the program. The Warren J. Plout Fund has helped us bring this event together, and we're going to continue to work with them. And for those of you that don't know, and I barely know, but I was there, Warren and my dad were some of those first agitators, organizers down in South Holyoke, trying to get people to think about unionizing in these factories, trying to address the immigrant and the migrant situation that was going on. People in this room were down there, part of the Hamilton Street crew. I see Joan Grenier here shaking her head, Jane Fry, Sylvia, Miguel, Orlando. People that were here, Ida Lee, Tom, half of our board, were there doing the work with the Sisters of St. Joseph, with the organizations that were on the ground in South Holyoke at the time. This is in the 70s and early 80s. And again, that work continues today. And there continues to be people that come up to us and say, Carlos Vega was the first person that I came to when I came to Holyoke and had to talk about what was going on. Carlos Vega was on our board. He was on our advisory. He pushed it. Carlos Vega got Diosdado on his first march on City Hall before Diosdado got elected to City Council, right? So again, those fingertips and that impact throughout. Last two people I want to recognize. And I'm so excited about our Social Justice Award winner. I'm going to bring Sylvia and Miguel up in a moment to talk about our Social Justice recipient this year. Also really happy to have our partner on all things economic development and all things about small business, Jordan Hart from the Greater Chamber. Jordan, thank you for being here. We don't often think about a chamber being a progressive organization, but Jordan's done a lot to reach out to the Latino community, to reach out to small businesses, and talk about bigger issues besides just the tax rate here in Holyoke. So Jordan, we appreciate it. But one person I do have to recognize, and he'll be speaking in a little bit, and I've got to know him over the last couple of years, hot off the plane from Washington, D.C.'s food conference on food insecurity, our friend, if you don't listen to him on the radio, you better be listening to him on the radio, Monty Belmonte. Thank you, Monty, for being here today. The work you do for the Cancer Connection, the work you do for the Food Bank of Western Mass, you're no stranger to Holyoke, and we're just so proud to have you as a friend and an ally with many of us individually in this room, but also with the Carlos Vega Fund. So again, thank you to Monty. Thank you to all of you for being here today. It's so great to be together. Please enjoy this amazing food if you haven't already dug in. We got food from Kai and Eli's, we have food from Crave, and we have food from Holyoke Hummus. So please enjoy the food, enjoy this amazing space. But before that, listen to our good friends Sylvia Durán and Miguel Arce to talk about our Social Justice Award winner for 2022. Ever the reluctant but very influential Miguel Arce. Come on.
I just want you to know, everything that Aaron said, I was going to say, so I don't have to say it.
It's so very humble.
He read the email. The only person that's ever read any of my emails. and stole it. So thank you all for being here. This is a really serious stuff that we're doing here. And really, I did anticipate what he said I was going to say, so I'm going to just like shift a little bit here and talk about some of our award winners and also about the award that's going to be given. That was not anticipated, right?
Right.
Okay. So, I don't know if I'm all that reluctant, but some of the people that have won the awards in the past, and you'll recognize, I suspect most, if not all. Tom and Lois Schwab were the very first award winners. Tom Schwab was an attorney. He was an attorney that provided, and until his death, provided services, legal service, free, pro bono, to multiple organizations and individuals. Another award winner was the Sisters of St. Joseph. The Sisters of St. Joseph, when you're talking about 1513 Hamilton Street, where the agitators were, they were there. They were some of the first people that were in there in their dungarees and their shorts, and they were doing the hard work that needed to be done. Betty Medina Lichtenstein. Betty, I would be surprised if any of you did not know Betty. Betty was the first elected Latina in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Yeah. We also gave an award to the Holyoke High School Alante Restorative Justice Program. Who said yeah?
Neftalí.
Oh, hi, Neftali. You're going to get yours. You're going to get yours, brother. We also gave an award to the former superintendent, George Counter. He was a fighter for the kids. I knew him. Wonderful human being. And Attorney David, who has been involved in so many things, it's unbelievable. And today I'm not going to steal Sylvia's thunder, but she's going to introduce Neftali. I did want to turn a little bit, because I am pivoting here. I did want to tell you a little bit about the award that's going to be given to Neftali, because Neftali needs to know the significance of what is being given to him. The framed picture that's given to Neftali was actually the origins of it were in 1980 to 1983. The Ford Foundation, in conjunction with the Massachusetts Council on Arts, paid a man called Bill Ravanisi to take pictures, historical pictures that will be preserved forever about what was happening in South Holyoke and the flats in general. And the picture that you're going to see is very, explains for itself. But it is an award that has historical significance, and we thought it would be especially appropriate for you, the picture that you're going to be given.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you all my friend, my paisano, Neftalí Durán, who is the recipient of the 2022 Carlos Vega Social Justice Award. For you, my friend. Neftalí Durán has had much experience working in local food production and as an activist for food rights and social justice, both here and in Mexico. He came to the US from Oaxaca, a state in the south of Mexico, as a teenager, and he has worked as a baker, chef, and educator. Since 2013, Neftali has been involved in indigenous food sovereignty and justice work. In 2017, he co-founded the I Collective in the area, an advocacy and education group with the aim of building an equitable food system and a network of indigenous food leaders. Some members of the I Collective have been working on an online cookbook with recipes and stories by indigenous people for indigenous people, but will be available to everyone in the internet. So we can all go and check it out. Neftali works on No Kid Hungry's Cooking Matters campaign, which includes teaching cooking classes to people receiving SNAP benefits across the state. I want to point out that people like Neftali are the backbone. I'm gonna cry. They are the backbone of the U.S. food industry. They work in the fields, they work in the slaughterhouses, they cook our foods, and they do the jobs that nobody else wants to do. So there.
Yeah.
Just like we had a toast for my brother from other parents, Carlos, I want to have a toast to Neftali and to other Mexican folks that are here. Alejandro, Johan, and myself. Everybody, arriba. Arriba. Abajo. Abajo. Al centro. Centro. Para adentro. Now, I'd like to introduce Monty Belmonte, a local radio celebrity, actually, our local celebrity in the Pioneer Valley, who has teamed up with Neftali on his annual marches against hunger. Monty?
Actually, everything Sylvia and Miguel said was sent in an email, so they took everything that I was going to say. I generally don't work off a script. 99.9% of what I do is improvised, so you know I care if I wrote a speech, which I did. Hello, I'm Monty Belmonte, a radio host at 93.9 The River, just a short walk up the road in Northampton. I first met Neff years ago at the El Jardin stand at Greenfield Farmers Market. I'm not exactly sure what Neff thought of me back then. While Neff's fresh-baked breads were always warm and inviting, the man himself often takes some time to come up to temperature, especially when meeting new people, and I think most especially when meeting new white people, as he likes to say, white people. And frankly, who can blame him? I'm not exactly sure what happened that allowed me to be, I guess, white privileged enough to cross that threshold into friendship with Neff, but I'm willing to wager it had something to do with the breaking of bread. Neff has taught me and so many others that breaking bread across the table with someone is a powerful first step in understanding someone's culture, their heritage, and their humanity. I already knew how hard Neff was working in the world of food justice when in 2016, I was honored to have him join us in this ridiculous publicity stunt fundraiser I do for the Food Bank of Western Mass, where the director of the food bank, Andrew Morehouse, a bunch of community members, Congressman Jim McGovern, and I pushed shopping carts from Mason Square in Springfield to Court Square in Greenfield. Neff's team is called Team Taco. They were already plotting their costumes for this year. He's been known to dress up for the event as the Mexican Bigfoot and to wave his "Don't Tread on Me" style Mexican Bigfoot with taco in tow flag on the march. Apart from raising money, the goal of the event, which is all live on the radio, is to hear the stories of people experiencing food insecurity and fighting for food insecurity up and down, for food security up and down the valley. And especially for people to hear these stories north of the so-called tofu curtain, the Holyoke Range. To hear the stories of people here in Holyoke, Chicopee, Springfield, stories that are too often too easy for people who live north of the Holyoke Range to ignore. Through this event, Neff has taught me and our listeners that there is no shame in being poor. The shame is that this rich nation allows so many people to live in poverty. He's also... I was just at a thing with President Biden and I have to stop like every 15 seconds. I'm used to that. He's also taught me that that making sure people have enough to eat is not charity. It is justice. We've used the opportunity of the event, which takes place Thanksgiving week, Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, if you want to join us, to dispel some of the myths surrounding that holiday in an attempt to decolonize our minds. Pushing back against colonization and gentrification is another important issue that I'm constantly learning about from Nef. I've learned from him that these lessons can so often be learned through food, and they can almost all be learned through food right here in Holyoke. Just about a year ago on Facebook, Nef posted, and I quote, "Food fight. Holyoke will soon have the best and most diverse restaurant scene in Western Mass. Plenty of Puerto Rican places, Dominican food, Colombian, Chinese, Cajun, amazing Indian menu at that one pizza place. Black-owned restaurants, some new food trucks. There's people and or churches that are selling cake, flan, and other sweets on Sundays. There's one breakfast place that has a Polish breakfast plate. If we can figure out how to support all these restaurants to stay open late, there will be no need to go north of the tofu curtain." So I responded to the post, "We should start a regular radio segment. Nef and Monty eat Holyoke." He replied, "Let's do it, as long as we're clear that restaurants and foodies take part on gentrification. We want to share food, just don't stay too long." I told him I would eat and run. And the semi-regular radio segment started the very next week. Each episode, we try and bring folks from all over the valley who grew up with the ethnic food tradition of the restaurant where we're eating to hear their stories as they break bread with us here in Holyoke. Our guests have ranged from one of the world's foremost Marxist intellectuals, originally from Calcutta, to eat Indian food at said pizza restaurant, to the mayor of Holyoke, who came with us to say farewell to the Puerto Rican culinary traditions of the Fernandez family. Every time I get the opportunity to have a meal with Nef, it feels special, important, and almost as importantly, delicious. Two of my most delicious moments in the sour times of the pandemic summer of 2020 had to do with eating with Nef. One where he invited my wife and I to join him on the patio of one of his old haunts, the Blue Heron restaurant in Sunderland, to learn about and eat a traditionally so-called white trash food called tomato pie. We and the chef there, Deb Snow, talked late into the night about gentrification, colonization, food justice, and, regular straight-up gossip and drinking and swearing and all that. And the second was when Nef came to my backyard that summer and cleaned and prepared a sea lamprey, which is a hideous-looking eel thing with a suction cup mouth filled with teeth, but which is an ancient and essential part of the ecosystem of the Connecticut River watershed. The saffron and tomato sauce that he cooked this lamprey in made this hideous thing taste so delicious. The environment, fighting against colonialism, gentrification, justice, all things I hope to continue to learn about from Nef and to continue to learn about through food with Nef. I've also learned from him that Mexico is the shit, that you can drive an old Honda Fit from Holyoke to Oaxaca, that we should screw Columbus Day and most of Thanksgiving tradition, never buy non-indigenous mezcal, watch Reservation Dogs, which is the best show on television right now, and that if you have a chance to eat food that Nef cooks for you, you should always take it, because you will never have better pozole or tacos in your life. Thank you, my friend. Come up here, Neftalí Durán.
We need the proverbial photo. We'll get a group photo after. That's the photo that Miguel mentioned. All right. And then
We're waiting.
5 and 4. Gracias. All right. We'll hand the mic to the man of the moment.
Yes.
There you go.
Every so often I meet people, and one of the first things that people ask, like, how do you end up in Western Mass? You know, being Mexican and not, you know, there didn't used to be a Mexican community here. But actually, I always tell them, of course, it's a story about a lady. My son's mom went to Mount Holyoke, and that's how I ended up in Massachusetts. That's how I ended up in Holyoke back in 2003. And from the get-go, I started baking. Bakery, the Nuestra Raices had opened. I started baking there, and I always just felt welcome ever since. This picture has actually a really great example of the footsteps that I and so many other people that work on food insecurity follow here in Holyoke. There's a long tradition of Puerto Rican resistance, Puerto Rican organizing, and a lot of elders that have only not have taught me a lot of things, but also allowed me to like be in this space with all of you. When Sylvia talked to me over the summer about this award, I was really humbled and really honored. I have received many accolades nationwide, including by the Smithsonian and other places, but being recognized in your own community, being seen by your own neighbors, your own people, is one of the most important things, in my opinion. Let me just say, I wanna just give you as Monty said, you know, a lot of the work that I do is on food justice, food security, and we have nowadays in this country and in the world, we have more food than we ever had in the history of humanity. We have more money than we ever had. We just happen to not have the moral compass and the moral fortitude to actually take care of our own people. So the work that I do is the work that I do is making sure that people have food. And actually now my work has changed a little bit. Now I'm gonna be traveling a lot nationwide to engage indigenous communities, Native American indigenous communities for Knocking Hungry. Same organization. I'll just like I'll take my work on the road, and I'm very privileged to be able to do that. Some of the work that we've done here in Holyoke, especially after during the pandemic, is very, very important. As you know, many community gardeners, many people have been doing food justice work here, and we still have a lot of community members that struggle. No shame. We just have to do the work. I don't know how the numbers are looking right now, but before the pandemic, we were about 40% SNAP usage, food insecurity. So it's really important that we all are aware that some of our neighbors don't have enough food. Some of our children, you know, have struggled to eat. We have some amazing. Massachusetts has always been at the front of making sure that we do better as humans, and I'm very happy that now every child will have food at school. That's setting a really good example for the rest of the nation, and you know, it boggles my mind that is not just normal for everyone, for every child, right? Some of the work that we've been doing here in Holyoke during the pandemic, we started an organization called the Holyoke Food and Equity Collective, and it's an all volunteer organization. Two of my colleagues are here, Chelsea and Cara. It was 6 of us that got together and started to think how can we do the work during the pandemic and what needed to be done. One of the things that we do, is we do cleaning. Everybody familiar with cleaning? Yeah. So food that would go to waste otherwise. There's plenty of food out here in Western Massachusetts. Plenty of fresh fruits and veggies. Plenty of food that, you know, up north in the valley. The
they'll sometimes need a home. And back there, we have our amazing superstar volunteer, Linda. What Linda does, what we do with this project is farmers call us and we go and pick it up the same day in the morning, and it's at Margaret's or Kate's kitchen or sometimes Lorraine's if there is too much the same morning, within a couple of hours. All volunteer. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The punchers know what they're doing. They're really good at it. We just drop it off and that's it. But it has been very important to us that the food is really good quality, what I like to call farmers market quality food, because there is nothing more demeaning and sad than to give people food that is not up to par. If you don't want to eat it, you don't want to give it to people, right? Maintaining the dignity of people is super important for me, and I think it should be for all of us. Another project that we have is at the Cara started a diaper bank. Diapers is one of the things diapers and formula, one of the things that doesn't get covered by any program. So she started a diaper bank, and same thing. We deliver diapers every month to the food pantries, and people know this. Actually, this month I was the one doing it, and people know that it's happening, and it's a really wonderful program. At the beginning of the season, we also built a bunch of garden beds for people in people's homes, and we built them and we brought the soil and everything. That was a grant from, I can't remember who. Chelsea, remember who?
Grassroots Environmental.
Small grant from Grassroots Environmental Fund. And so all of the programs that we're doing, JR, who's not here, is running the farmers market with the Chamber of Commerce, and all of those programs that we're doing is all volunteer, and we're just feeling a need in the community. And I'm just really proud to be in this community, with all of my friends and everyone that is here, and I'm really grateful to be receiving this award. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll follow back up with Neftali with a little bit more of our program, just to recognize some changes that we've been through. And so Orlando is coming on up. Orlando's coming up. Nef, thank you so much. You can grab some food if you haven't already. And as Orlando makes his way up, I just want to also recognize some long friends that we've all had. Many of us in this room. The Burks family is here, and we just so appreciate all that you've done, Dennis and Rebecca, for education, for those children who don't have the same examples and the same opportunities as others. So thank you to you and your family. Orlando, my friend.
I know truly everything that I wanted to say has been said. Actually, when Aaron volunteered me to do this job the other day, I thought, I don't really know that much about Mary Burks. And I thought, well, what does it take to know someone? What does it take to know yourself? Who are you? So we all have our own perspectives of the other. And I thought, well, I may not have a lot of memories of moments or events with Mary, but I remember deeply the feeling about knowing this extraordinary woman. You know, I'm kind of strange about this. I think that we travel together as souls to learn the lessons of being alive. And some people who come into our lives are very special, and some are not. Some leave a very gentle footprint, and others occupy half of your heart. So I have this feeling about Mary, and I don't remember how we first met. I think it was through John Sass, whom I saw, and I love that man. Where is John Sass?
Down there.
Down there. I think it was through the Holyoke Street School, because I was then a therapist at Crossroads here in Holyoke, and I used to get referrals from there to see some of the students and their families. That's how I think I met Mary. It makes sense, I make it up anyway. But what I know is that feeling about being in the presence, frankly, of a holy woman. We're all human. We're all sinners. So when I say a holy person, it's not to be enshrined in the Vatican, but it's to recognize kind of the depth of their humanity, their profound sense of kindness. I mean, Mary just exuded kindness, a passion for justice. But more than that, she easily traveled from what I say in my own language, case to cause. She was able to understand the immediate need of the person and yet travel into what politics and laws and principles and norms should be created to support a system so that a person is better off. She traveled between those two easily and flexibly. Excellent teacher, excellent administrator, but a humble, significant presence. When she entered the room, you knew of her power. She made herself present with her humanity. You knew she would listen to you, and she listened thoughtfully and carefully. But she was one of not just thinking, and she was good at it, but action. She was a doer. She wanted to do good. It has been said here before. I think she would agree with me today to say that she was the champion of human rights. The person who understood clearly that things such as food and a shelter and a good education and good opportunities for a good future are fundamental human rights. And she recognized that in action. She worked for justice. She worked for equity. She worked for peace. She worked for community. She was a community organizer, educator, administrator, community organizer, maker, doer, a person who worked for the better for everybody around her, a family lover. She would surprise us at home with little cards for, our daughter's birthday, or our grandchild's birthday, or a Christmas, or something would appear, a little package from Mary. I'll stop very briefly. We developed a kind of a routine over time. Over the decades, we would find each other at several meetings, demonstrations, celebrations, and so on and so forth. So the routine that came up all the time was, oh my God, Mary, what are you doing here? You're everywhere I go. So what's the story? And once I would say that, then we would come and embrace each other and kiss each other. I love Mary. We miss Mary. Not being very familiar with the particulars, I'm going to get my very dear friend, where is it? She's hiding, Jane. Because when I said I didn't know much about Mary, I said to my colleagues on the board, I said, please give me some information that I can use in my presentation. I got some from Sylvia. Where is Sylvia? Got some from Sylvia. And then, dear Jane here wrote my speech. So she's going to do it.
I was really hoping Orlando would do my speech. And so I really haven't practiced. But I just want to say, Mary was such a good friend, and we really miss her on the Carlos Vega Fund board. She was the most organized, articulate, She corrected all our grammar. She wrote many of the press releases, and we've been limping along since. We just really, really miss her. And aside from that, I just really miss her smile, her insight. She was very sarcastic. And just at the right moment when you really needed a little bit of sarcasm, because the world sometimes is a little too hard to take.
It was good sarcasm.
It was good sarcasm, it was. She was one of those people, as John Sass, I was talking to him a little bit about Mary, that have him refresh some of my memories of the Holyoke Street School, but she was one of those people who was just always doing things behind the scenes in a very unassuming way. She never wanted accolades. She never cared about getting credit. She did things because they were the right thing to do. She had a way with kids, and she had a way with people in general. And although she accomplished many things as an educator, from working as a teacher to working at the Holyoke Street School to working in Vermont, going up to Vermont, working in the State Department of Education, and then being, I think her last job was Director of Special Ed in Ware. I think she worked in Springfield too. Probably I've forgotten a few things, but aside from that, she was many other things. She was a community organizer, as Orlando said, hospice volunteer, board member of numerous organizations, and she was a consummate friend. Above all, she loved her family dearly, and her extended family dearly. When I was working as a nurse midwife, she would often accompany members of her family to their prenatal visits. She would always be saying, "Oh, I'm going to bring them here, there. I'm going to the birthday party here." She was always there for her family and her friends. Mary came to Holyoke in 1969 as a volunteer with Urban Ministry when she was a senior at Mount Holyoke College. She moved here after graduation and lived on South Summer Street with her husband and her son Dennis, who was here with his family. Dennis also has a very great smile that he inherited from his mother. So Carlos at the time was living across the street, and they both were very involved in a lot of different things, along with a lot of other like-minded people, like Jimmy Lesko. I just cried when I saw him today, and John Sass, who worked at the street school, and Sylvia Robello, Maria Singletary. Those are some of the people. Joan Grenier, John Weissman. They worked side by side on many endeavors. They attended public hearings at City Hall to advocate for better housing and schools, organizing protests against the tearing down of Morgan School, organizing neighborhood block parties, setting up voter registration drives, and working on political campaigns to get more progressive people in city council and more Latinos in city council. Just to name a few of the many things that she did. So meanwhile, she finished her degree, her master's degree, I believe, and went to work for the Holyoke Street School after working in West Springfield. And if some of you remember, the Holyoke Street School was an alternative school for kids who were in special education. John and Jack Wright, who worked with her as well there, remember us having a very special relationship with kids. She was really in tune with them, and she knew the right questions to ask. John and Dennis had a wild trip across country with about 6 of the kids for a month. And I'm not sure who learned more, the adults or the kids, but she was someone who never gave up on these families. She would come and continue to be in touch with them. Even a few who had gone to prison, she would go and visit them in prison. She would bring their families there if they weren't able to find a ride. And that's just the kind of person she was. So I just want to say a few of the organizations she worked with. Urban Ministry, as I mentioned, the Girls Club of Holyoke, Homework House, the Carlos Vega Fund for Social Justice, and she was also president of the Holyoke Chicopee Citizens Advisory Board of the Department of Developmental Services. It's a long name. So anyway, as I had said in Orlando, said Mary was a wonderful friend. I also was a recipient of birthday presents every year on my birthday mailed to me. And she just always remembered those kinds of things. She was always there when you needed her. She showed up. She was consistent. She was there in sad times, happy times, when babies were being born, in illness. She was by Carlos's side many times when he was dying, in funerals. And she was there in the same way for her family and her extended family and her community. And we miss her so much. So today, we just wanted to honor her, and I will have Orlando just say how we're going to do that.
Well, I just want to end with this. Her obituary said that it was her wish that there be no services in her memory. Instead, the obituary says, if you are so inclined, raise a glass, say a prayer, or make a donation to Homework House. So, let's do that. We raise again a glass in her memory, and silently we say a prayer for her soul and the souls of she so much loved. And I'm now announcing that in her memory, in her honor, in remembrance of what she was and remains to us, we are making a grant of $500 to the Homework House.
Thank you. Thank you, Alante. So the work continues. We're inspired by Carlos, we're inspired by Mary, we're inspired by all of you. And so to wrap it up, to bring us home, our friend, our board member, Carrie Baker, is going to close us out. So Carrie, come on up. He's one of our newer board members too, so we'll put him on the spot a little bit today. So taking us home. Thank you, Carrie.
I'm definitely on the spot, and I'm not going to say anything that anyone else has said. So this is all new. Completely new. So I am, yes, the newest board member on the Carlos Vega Fund for Social Justice. And what I'm here to do is a couple of things. Actually, say a little bit about me. So I did come across the tofu curtain to Holyoke from Northampton, and I'm glad I did. It's actually one of the places I wanted to move to when I first moved to this area. And I'm happy that I'm here now. So one of the things that I'm here to do is two things. One, we need more board members. So if there's anyone that's here that likes to join our board, please do. You can reach out to Aaron, you can reach out to anyone else on the board. You actually can contact us through the website, carlosvegafund.org. And that's one of the things I want to say. And the other thing I want to say is we've been talking about food here a lot. We have a lot of food left. Please eat the food or take the food with you because we don't want to just throw it out in the trash. It's actually great food. It's from great local places. I don't think you could take the beer and the wine though. But you should stay here and drink that. But those are two things I wanted to say. This is a great board. I have a great time being on the board. When we were meeting before COVID, we met at home. So we had dinner, we had drinks, and we had a lot of fun. that I think this is going to continue. We're going to do this again. So thank you, everyone, from coming out. This is the end of the program, and I know that people tend to leave, but some, if you want to stick around and just mingle and talk to some of the board members here, or just talk to people you haven't had a chance to talk to, please do. Thank you.
Thank you.